Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. Cool. Here we are. Here we are. Let's not waste any time. Take TTP traders. I hope everything is well on your side. Welcome to another episode. Actually, the third one. We are closing off the chapter with Ernst today. I think we all learned a lot throughout the time. We learned how to focus correctly in front of the charts. We learned a lot about supplements and exercise, how it can help you in your trading journey. Uh, Everything around the charts. We learned how to optimize the sleep and deal with stress. So, yeah, I want to welcome Ernst once more here
Thank
on the
you.
TTB channel. Ernst, what are we talking about today? What do you have in
Yeah,
store for us?
let me start. I'll share the presentation and gonna dive right into it. So thank you for your introduction and welcome traders to this third and last part of the webinar series on performance medicine. For those of you who didn't manage to, excuse me, those of you who didn't manage to attend the last two episodes, I shortly want to introduce myself. I'm Ernst. I'm a medical doctor and fitness expert, and I have over 11 years of experience with the fitness and well-being field, where I've always tried to link my medical knowledge that I was gathering as a doctor with my journey in the fitness and health field. I also have a bachelor in medical philosophy, which has taught me to think about concepts like health and well-being in from broader terms and really develop my own view on these issues. And I've also been a trader since last year. Well, I have to say that I'm not funded yet, but I've been working towards that goal consistently for about a year now, so I can apply my medical knowledge to what you need as a trader from this experience. So short recap, like the first two episodes, we've tried to dive into certain aspects of health and performance and mindset and psychology for traders. And in the first one, we've indeed talked about nutrition, supplements, and exercise, and kind of laying the foundations for optimal brain function, and creating stable energy and focus by taking care of your brain hardware, let's say. The second part was indeed about mindset and psychology, where you learned how to take care of the software part of your brain. And today will be also a foundational topic for your focus and your health overall, because today we will discuss sleep and recovery. And I have to say that the three parts are really connected. Like there's a connection between them, so it really helps if you check out all the parts. So if you haven't done yet, watch the first parts as well. So today we will dive into sleep primarily, because sleep is a very important part of your health and also tantamount for your performance. We'll talk a bit about stress management and how you have to view stress in the 21st century. And we'll talk about recovery tools that you can use to increase your recovery of both your body and your brain. So first of all, we need to set some goals, and these goals were already discussed in the earlier episodes, but I also discuss them here, of course. As a trader, you need stable and sustained energy so that you can really have the energy to work on the charts and don't feel tired when you're trying to trade. This also flows into the second part. You want to have an alert and sharp mind so that you don't make mistakes and you see what's actually going on so that you don't miss anything. And of course, you want to be focused also that you don't make mistakes and also that you are efficient while you're trading so that you just get in, get the job done, and then you can do something else. And sleep and recovery really form a basis for this, because sleep is very important for the function of basically everything in your body. So we talk a bit about why we sleep. a bit about what's happening in the brain. I'll keep us all a bit brief because I definitely mostly want to go into the hands-on tips that you can use to improve your own sleep quality. We'll talk about dangers to sleep and maybe also causes that some of you might have that make you feel tired. We'll talk about circadian rhythm for those of you who don't know that, and it is very important for a lot of things in your life. And we'll talk about some tips for creating the right sleep habits. So first of all, we need to go over what actually happens during sleep. So some of you might already know that there are several sleep cycles that you go through every night, starting with like light sleep, non-REM sleep 1 and 2. This needs to be a 2, excuse me. Then you have deep sleep and then you have REM sleep. And these cycles just repeat during the night. And what you need to know is that sleep is essential for learning, for memory reinforcing, for learning new skills. So new synapses that you like, synapses are the connections between neurons that you want to, for example, if you're learning a new skill, then there will be new connections made in the brain. And these connections will be honed and strengthened during sleep so that you actually learn a new skill. And also memories will be processed and will be put from your short-term and your long-term memory, which is also an essential part. And it is also essential for your emotional regulation because during REM sleep, you kind of reprocess certain experiences in the day. You kind of reprocess them by dreaming as one of the functions that scientists think is the reason that we dream, in order to make events less traumatic. And which is also interesting because in psychotherapy, there is a technique called EMDR, which is used for trauma therapy, where you actually make the same movements with your eyes as you do naturally during REM sleep. So this process has a certain pathway to desensitizing certain emotional experiences. It is also direct needed for the health of your brain because we have a kind of a circulation in the brain called the glymphatic system, which a term you can't forget. But what you have to remember is that there is like a blood flow, but it's not really blood. It's just cerebral spinal fluid, which flows to the brain and kind of clears out any debris. And this flow increases dramatically during sleep. So it really helps with protecting against waste buildup. And also your body repairs certain damages that happen during the day by releasing growth hormone. So some reasons why people are tired, because feeling tired is one of the main things that people go to their GP with. Like many people suffer from not feeling optimally rested or tired, etc., etc. So I just made a list of things that might be causing it. Like, and we will also go over how to fix most of them. So stress, for example, can cause less restorative sleep, where we'll talk about in a bit. Sleep apnea, also a big issue. Many people don't know that they have this. And it is actually where you sleep, and because of the relaxation of your body, you kind of stop breathing for some time. And then your body gets into a stress state because, well, when you stop breathing, your oxygen drops. And then this creates like a stress situation. And it can happen multiple times per night, creating a very, causing the sleep to not be as restorative as it should be. And you could try finding out if you have this, if you really suffer from feeling groggy and tired all day, or if people mention it, like people that you share the bed with mention that you stop breathing during the night, and this might be a very big indicator that you need to go to the doctor to get this checked. Or if you just wake up with a dry mouth and a headache and feeling very groggy in the morning, then this is also an indicator that you should at least get checked if you are suffering from this. Another big issue is interrupted sleep. We know that sleep is most helpful when it is like continuous and not interrupted. And I'll talk about how you can prevent interruptions in a bit. Also, not sleeping aligned with your clock is an issue for people where they get less good recovery from their sleep. Overexhaustion and overtraining, of which I've had my fair bit as well, are also big issues into why you feel tired. And of course, bad sleep environment and bad habits around sleep are also very common and can be cause of feeling tired. So about dangers to sleep, this is more of like a categorized manner of looking at it. We know that both the quality and the quantity of sleep are very important, but it is true that if you get very good quality, then you can get away with a little bit less quantity. And if your quality is bad, then you need to sleep more. But you really want to get both in check. So like psychological issues can ruin your sleep, like chronic stress, etc. And these I already talked about a bit with the reasons that you can feel tired, but this is just to have a clear overview. And we'll talk about how to fix your environment in a bit. Yeah, lack of movement, I want to light it out, is a very big reason that people suffer from insomnia, because your body needs to kind of build up a sleep pressure, which partly only happens when your body really moves. So if you don't move enough, there is not enough buildup of adenosine. You can forget that term, but it's the reason that you start feeling sleepy. And it's also the chemical that's blocked by coffee, actually. But if there is no proper amount of adenosine, then you don't really have this big trigger for you to feel sleepy. And I think all of you know the difference between feeling tired, like actually when you have like walked for 20 kilometers in a day and you really feel like physically tired and you get a really nice night's sleep, and just feeling tired in your head, like from working at an office all day. This is a way different feeling of tiredness, and this is due to the adenosine buildup. The other ones I'm going to talk about in a bit as well. But first, I want to get a nice and interesting concept across that I think is very important for people to know if you don't know about it already. And it is the circadian clock. So humans and most animals actually have a biological clock, which is located inside, like literally in the middle of your brain, in your hypothalamus. And it regulates when processes in your body take place. So you can kind of, it's kind of a way to anticipate in patterns so that all the processes can be the most efficient. So you can kind of see it as a factory, like if you would have all the people that are responsible for packing the stuff, for example, if you would have them come in before the product is actually manufactured, then this is not efficient. So this is also how your body works. And this circadian rhythm is reset mainly by light exposure, also by when you are most active, and also by eating times. They all are time givers, which is the word for that. So they kind of give your body a signal that it is a certain time, which is also why you get sleepy at the same time and and hungry at the same time. And what is important to know is that this regulation of this rhythm, we get to know this more and more in recent years, actually leads to increased risk of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and also neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer. And most importantly for traders, also on the short term, that it can give brain fog because you kind of feel groggy if you wake up at a time that's not natural to your body. The main chemical that is related to this, that most people also know, is melatonin, which is produced in the hypothalamus and is like reduced when there is light falling into your eyes, like especially blue light is very strong in this. And so it's influenced normally by the light of the day. And since we invented artificial electro light, it is also influenced by our artificial light sources, which can cause problems with sleeping in many people. So I'll talk a bit about how you can use melatonin to your favor as well later. And what you should also know is that not everybody has the same biological clock. So there is some theories why this is the case. One plausible theory is that if everybody has a slightly different time where they are awake and where they are active, then this provides an overall beneficial evolutionary effect on the whole group, because that way, if everybody is awake at a different time, the group like of humans that used to live in the prehistoric times, would be protected all the time because there would always somebody be awake. So it's important to try to optimize your sleep times for your chronotype as much as possible. And how you can do that is first find your most natural inclination to your sleep-wake rhythm. So you can ask yourself the questions on, like, when do you normally fall asleep and wake up naturally if you wouldn't have to set an alarm? When you feel most alert. And also if you're naturally sleepy before 10 or later, then this can be kind of an indication on your natural pattern. And you also have to know that your biological clock kind of can shift during your life. So maybe if you were a morning person for some time, you can also become an evening person. This kind of happens, so you have to be always mindful about it. And next to this, to finding out your natural rhythm, it's also very important to stick to a certain pattern. So you want to ideally find a pattern that overlaps as much with your natural tendency. But going to bed at the same time is very important. So you actually want to have at maximum half an hour deviation from your bedtime for optimal sleep. And if you do this, I can promise you it's an insane difference if you actually have a bedtime and actually wake up at at the exact same time every day. So how you set a rhythm is basically you choose a wake up time as much as closely to what you feel is your natural inclination. And you wake up regardless of how late you went to sleep, because the first day is going to be a reset day. So you probably don't sleep as much as you would like, but it's all about setting the new rhythm. So you don't sleep in, you don't snooze, and then the next evening you go to bed when you're sleepy. So when you actually feel the sleep pressure hitting you. And then in a few days you can actually adjust your rhythm. Sometimes it takes longer. If you, for example, are jet lagged, then it can take 1 day per hour of time difference, actually. And what can help you setting your rhythm is melatonin. So you can take melatonin, which is normally produced in your brain orally. And this way you can kind of trick the system a bit and make you fall asleep earlier. And what's also very important in setting your rhythm is early morning light exposure, because this is such a big regulator of your internal clock. And preferably you want daylight. But if you're in a country like the Netherlands and you wake up before the sun comes up, then you can also use a daylight lamp, which can really help you like make the switch from sleeping to wakefulness. Because if you don't have a clear switch, this can be one of the issues why people feel very groggy in the morning, is that they kind of are in a half awake, half sleepy state. And you want to have this distinction as good as possible, because then you really are asleep when you're sleeping and you really are awake when you are awake. And if this gets shifted because of a bad rhythm or because of lack of light exposure or other issues, then you start feeling this shimmer zone between awake and sleeping. And this is something that you really don't want, especially not when you're trading. Then the sleep environment is very important. Like I said, blue light exposure is is the enemy of melatonin, basically, because it breaks down melatonin. So for ideal sleep, you want to dim your lights 1.5 hours up to 2 hours before bedtime. Or what you can do is switch them to a red light source, because red light has little, like the effect of red light on your melatonin is way less. And I personally also use an app called Flux. So on all my screens, this app will slowly turn my screen into a yellowish color. And it goes gradually, so you don't really notice it. But then this really plays a role in lowering the blue light exposure in the day. What also is very important is the air temperature and the air humidity. So ideally, you don't want to have a too cold and not too warm bedroom, because your body temperature needs to drop before you really fall asleep. This is one of the main things that kind of has to happen for you to fall asleep or sleep well. So you definitely don't want to have a too warm environment. And the humidity also preferably is between 40 and 60, because if it's lower than 40 and you're breathing the entire night in this dry air, then this is gonna irritate your airways, and it can cause you to feel, how do you say, like, it causes irritation, and this irritation kind of doesn't need to wake you up, but it can make you feel less sleep less deep, let's say. Also, investing in a good mattress is very important because you spend like a third of the day there. So invest in time and money in searching for a good mattress. And you want to use your bedroom preferably only for sleep and sex. Like, don't do any work there, because your brain is going to associate it with activities. And if you just use your bedroom for these two activities, you just have kind of the right sleep environment, and subconsciously this will help you get better sleep. Regarding the right habits, it's important that you sleep like as continuously as possible. So if you have to pee at night and go out of bed for that, you can first of all try not to drink as much water before you go. And if this doesn't work, then you can also try a tiny bit of salt before you go to bed, because salt will help you to retain water. It will make you pee less during the night, and you will just pee in the morning. But only do this if you are cardiovascularly healthy. So don't do this if you have any heart failure issues, please. Also regarding meals, you don't want to go to bed hungry, because hunger is a very strong trigger for your brain to stay awake. That's also why fasting helps with feeling sharp. And you also don't want to eat any large fatty meals 3 hours before bed, because first of all, if you have a full stomach, this troubles breathing. So you will breathe less comfortably during sleep. And also it will cause a little bit of acid reflux, and this acid reflux, so basically stomach acid going back into your esophagus, will also get you out of your deep sleep a bit. Then, of course, talking about drugs, you want to limit, like almost all drugs have some issue with sleep, let's say. So caffeine, for example, is a very potent way to mess up your sleep if you drink too late in the day, because it has a half-life of 5.5 hours. So actually, it takes 5.5 hours for half of the caffeine in your system to get cleared. So this is quite long. So preferably you wouldn't take it after 2 p.m. So even the people who think they can drink it in the evening and fall asleep properly, like even those people mostly will have some effect on sleep. So, but you can make this up for yourself, of course. Alcohol is known to be like a sleep inducer, which it kind of is, because it can make you sleepy in certain dosages, but it doesn't improve the quality of your sleep. So you can, yes, you sleep earlier maybe, but you will get less deep sleep. And weed, same, like weed can make you very tired, but it's very bad for your REM sleep. So you have to make up your mind about using this if you suffer from sleep issues. And the general thing that really helps is getting your heart rate low before you go to bed, so no strenuous exercise, and also making sure that your body temperature is cooling down a bit, because this is important for you, actually for the sleep cycles to start. Also, using a mouth tape can be beneficial because you are breathing through your nose then. So if you have no issues with the airflow in your nose, using a mouth tape can also help you sleep deeper, because breathing through your nose is relaxing for your body. And this brings me to the second point, is don't go to bed stressed. So even if you would lose 50 minutes of sleep over it, it's worthwhile to make sure that you wind down if you're very stressed before you go to sleep, because even if you would fall asleep fast, then the feeling of stress will decrease the restfulness of your sleep. And you can also try these supplements, like these are proven to help you with getting more rested during the night, and especially ashwagandha can help you with lowering stress. So you can experiment with these if you'd like. And then the next topic I want to get into is stress. So stress in the 21st century is You hear it all the time. Everybody is kind of stressed in some sense or another. So I'll talk a bit about the physiology. So which processes are taking place and what is good stress and what is bad stress. We'll talk a bit about why it is bad and how it can be bad for your trading performance, and also how you can deal with it. So what you have to know is that people used to live in a pretty chill world for the longest duration of our existence, because we evolved in like a world where we sometimes had a very stressful time where we would have to survive a cyber, like a saber-tooth tiger, something like that. But for the other times, it was mostly just finding food and just sitting. So there would be very high stress situations in a world with otherwise not very much going on. And our bodies are also kind of designed for high stress situations, so that the stress really peaks. You get kind of superhuman for a little bit of time, and then it drops and you get into a recovery state. And this is how it always used to work. Like you have a moment where you are stressed, you get adrenaline, you get cortisol, your body is made to fight and or to flee from an enemy. And then afterwards you go into the other state of existence, which is the rest and digest state, where you basically are just chill. And the issue of today is that there's no real big dangers anymore, but the day has constant small stresses, which together cause you to kind of stay always on. So a lot of people notice this, that they kind of have a lot of chores to do and then work, etc., etc. And you have social media that's drawing attention. So your system is constantly loaded with a lot more than in prehistoric days. Also, they find out that researchers found out that the amount of decisions that we make in a day in these times is like around 30,000, while in prehistoric days it would be maximum 1,000. So this, of course, has a toll on your capabilities and on your body. And where the normal stress, where you have to function intensely for a time and then you wind down, is not necessarily unhealthy. The constant levels of stress, they can cause immune and hormonal dysregulation. So stress is highly related to increased risk of cancer and cardiovascular diseases, and also to mental health disorders, of course. And so where healthy dosed stress, like for example, exercise, which also puts a stress on your body, but in a like dosed manner and in a short-lived manner, can make your body stronger. The chronic stress is a real hindrance to recovery. So we need to actively look for a way to de-stress the mind and body. So what you, for example, can do, I'll talk about this in a bit. For traders, the reality of stress is, for example, that you can feel anxious and less sharp, and that overall the quality of your trades will be lower because you kind of don't have this peak moment of alertness and concentration, because you kind of have a constant mediocre level of stress. So you don't have this on switch that you can use for trading. You just kind of feel on all the time, but this doesn't mean that you're performing at your best all the time. So, for example, feeling stressed can cause you to fall for trading traps, like I discussed earlier, because you're less emotionally regulated. And what you actually want to feel when you're trading is that you feel like sort of excitement, so not real stress, but more like excited and sharp. And that is not what you have when you actually are stressed all the time. So what can help is, of course, to take away some, to be away from the chart for some time and really focus on the quality of your trading sessions instead of the quantity of your trading sessions. Because, like I said, also during your time away, your brain will, like especially during sleep, will reinforce your skills and you will have a better emotional regulation as well when you get back to the charts and you feel well rested. So in dealing with stress, there's a few tactics that you can use, but what it's basically focusing on is, like I said, you have to go from the always on mode. So this feeling of constantly having something to do and constantly having something on your mind, which kind of gets you a sort of jittery, anxious energy. You want to go to complete restfulness. So in the body, it kind of works. We have a central nervous system, which is like autonomic nervous system, which is divided into two parts, which is a bit of underlying theory that I want to get out to you, but you have to check what you want to do with it. We have a sympathetic nervous system, which is for the fight and flight response. And we have a parasympathetic nervous system, which is for the rest and digest mode. So when there is no stress and no dangers going on. And so if you want to get your body out of the stress state, you need to get your body into the parasympathetic nervous system state. So these are things that you can do for that. Like you can start stretching, like I explained already in the first episode. So if you're interested, you can review that. Also, massages can be a way to get stress out of the body physically and to relax your muscles. And what's also very profound in reducing stress is breathing exercises. And there's, of course, breathing exercises are very well known from certain religions in the East. But there's more and more attention for them in recent Western medicine as well. And for example, the Navy SEALs also use a technique called box breathing, where you basically breathe in for 4 seconds through your nose. Then you hold your breath for 4 seconds. You breathe out for 4 seconds, and then you wait before you breathe in again for 4 seconds. And if you do this a few cycles, then this activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So the anti-stress nervous system, let's say. And it can reduce heart rate and blood pressure like immediately. So if you want to experiment with this is quite interesting. You can check for yourself that your heart rate will drop after with a few beats after you do this for a few rounds. And if you do this consistently, if you're suffering from stress, then it can improve your mental clarity and also your ability to sleep better at night. So what's also important to know is that there's, of course, no real distinction between physical and mental stress because the body and mind are very much connected. But when you are having stressful thoughts, then your way of thinking about these thoughts also influences the effect of them. So what I mean by that is that the weight you give to certain stressful thoughts actually also influences how much these thoughts affect your body. So one thing that you can do for if you are having stressful thoughts or anxious thoughts, for example, about a trade, you can kind of reframe it. Like if you're kind of feeling stressed for a trade, you can kind of reframe it into feeling excited. So then you give it a different meaning. And physically, it's been proven that people who do this mental exercise are less prone to burnout and also less prone to the physical effects from stress. Then for the final part, where you like take some time off the charts, I'm going to discuss 2 recovery tools that you can use and implement in your daily life that can really up your overall health and also your performance as a trader. Because you have, of course, the recovery part of sleep, you have the recovery part of meditation, but also by putting your body through a little stressor, like actively, you can actually make your body stronger, like I talked about earlier. So by, for example, by going through sauna, what you can do, sauna has many health benefits actually. Like it is very well studied in Finland. because Finland has like more sauna than people pretty much. So everybody there goes there. And what I found is that sauna decreases all-cause mortality. So meaning that like it kind of makes you live longer. It decreases your cardiovascular disease risk and your risk of Alzheimer's. And it is also in the modern world one of the best way to detoxify. So there is a lot of toxicity pressures going on in the environment. Like we all have PFAS in our bodies. In the Netherlands, actually, an article came out that everybody in the Netherlands has too much of that in their bodies, according to the health regulation. So everybody's poisoned, basically. And then, of course, it's not one toxin, it's like multiple toxins. So you have PFAS, pesticides, heavy metals, mold toxins, and all together they can cause issues in the body because they all have their own small toxic effect. But overall, then it can have a burden combined, of course. And what they found is that people who go to the sauna regularly, because you sweat so much, you can actually lower the amounts of these toxins. So, and this is very good for your overall health, of course, because it's less stress on the system. Heat also releases heat shock proteins, and these, you don't have to get too close in on what they actually are, but you have to remember that they are like stress-induced molecules that help your body deal with stress, and they stay around for after you've been in the sauna. So these molecules help you decrease radical oxygen species, which you can also forget, but it's kind of like the bad stuff that happens from processes in your body get cleared up by these molecules. And this has hormetic effect. So a little dose of a stress, like heat exposure, can help your body to function with its normal function during the day for the rest of the day. It also helps you with cardiovascular fitness because your blood vessels really need to, and also your heart really needs to pump a lot of blood to cool you down. It is also relaxing for your muscles and your mind because you just sit in the sauna with your thoughts. And it's really a moment where you take your mind off things. And all these health benefits combined, I think it will make you a healthier human and also more competitive. So what you can do is try to incorporate it into your life just by doing 5 times or 4 times a week, but you can do it as much as possible because there is a set dose response relation. So meaning that if you do more of it, it will have more like beneficial effects. So you could do it every day. And you just want to build up the duration, temperature, and frequency. And important is that you hydrate properly so that you take in water with salt, preferably, or you can take coconut water with some salt, which is what I personally like to do in recent times. And you have to be mindful about the fact that, of course, sauna causes you to lose heavy metals, but it can also cause you to lose magnesium a bit faster than normally. So that's something that you want to also supplete when you use sauna frequently. And then what you want to do, of course, is cool down properly after you've done it, especially your head, because you don't want your head to get too warm for many reasons. It can also be combined with a cold shower or a cold plunge afterwards, as long as you are cardiovascularly healthy. And you don't jump into the cold plunge at once. So it's all a matter of easing you into the cold exposure a bit. So also if you want to take a cold shower after a sauna, you want to kind of put your hands and your feet in first so your body can kind of get used to the temperature and it's not too much of a shock. And you don't, like if you go into the cold exposure, all the blood vessels in your skin will contract. So it can actually cause you to store more heat over time. So you have to be mindful about this, that if you just go into the cold plunge for a little time, then you might actually lose heat less quickly. So you need to stay in a bit, like for a decent amount of time. Timing is also important. Like you don't want to optimally do it right after a workout. I personally actually do it like this because it's just easier for me to fit it into my life. But from a muscle gain perspective, there might be a slight decrease in hypertrophy after you do it like after a weight training session. But personally, I find this very minute, so I choose to still do it. And you also don't want to do it right before sleep, like 2 hours before sleep, because it can, like I said, rise your core temperature. And if your core temperature stays high, then it makes you like a worse sleeper. And also very important to never use it when you're either sick, hungover, or dehydrated, or like I said, if you have cardiovascular issues. And then the other thing, which is also a healthy stressor on your body, like sauna is a stressor in the heat sense, cold exposure, also a stressor, but in the cold sense. And like I said, stress itself, like I tried to explain, a stressor doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It just all depends on the context and the dosage. And a mild stressor like exercise, sauna, and cold exposure can trigger processes in the body that makes it stronger and better in basically all the functions that you want in the rest of your life, basically. I also can like to compare it to, for example, astronauts. If astronauts, they are exposed to less gravity than on Earth, so they kind of lose their bones. So after they get back to Earth, they need to start walking, like learn to walk again, because their bones have completely become brittle. So we actually, in our everyday life, we expose our bones to stress, and that's what makes them able to do the things that we like to do. So if you take away the stress, then the body just loses it, basically. So with very well-dosed techniques like cold exposure and sauna, you can make your body do its functions at its optimal capacity. So cold exposure, for example, balances your immune system in the sense that it kind of decreases chronic inflammation, but it strengthens also your immune system on the short term by sending out certain cells into the bloodstream, which can scavenge for viruses and bacteria. And what's also a very strong effect of cold exposure is that it improves your mood and wakefulness very efficiently. So there have been studies that it can increase your serotonin and dopamine baseline for like times 2.5 for several hours. So if you do it in the morning, then you have the benefit for at least the first part of the day. And also the psychological cascade of doing something very difficult also comes into play, because cold you never really get used to it. So it always remains a challenge. And by kind of getting over this challenge every day, or how many times you want to do it, you really enforce some discipline and feelings of victory in your psychology. And I think this carries out to almost every other aspect of your life. So how you do this in a healthy way is, first of all, I want you to never do hyperventilation breathing exercises when in water, because there has actually been some people that did this and they drowned, because there was always a small risk that when you hyperventilate for a breathing exercise that you faint. And if this happens in water, then that is a very bad situation for you. How you can do it is you can start by taking cold baths or cold showers of 10 to 15 degrees, which is not even that cold, but it will still be like feel uncomfortable. You can start with like 1 to 3 minutes, 3 to 4 times per week, and you can do it every day if you want. And if you have access to an ice bath, then you can also build up towards this, or you can start there immediately, but then just very short, because it's a way more extreme cold exposure. So it's like the difference is like 5 degrees, 3 to 5 degrees to 10 to 15 degrees. And this also creates a stronger effect. So you really feel stronger mentally, and also have a higher dopamine baseline afterwards, but also comes with slightly more risk. So I advise you to really ease yourself into it a bit. And if you don't have an ice tub, there's also things available that can turn a normal bathtub that you might have in your bathroom at home already, where you can just run cold water in it. And then this device is a standalone chiller, which will like circulate the water and turn it into 3 to 5 degrees water, basically, which might be an opportunity to do cold exposure at home. And if you want to do something more advanced, which is, in my opinion, the most brutal thing, is if you swim outside during winter, which is something I like to do in the Netherlands here, where you really feel superhuman, honestly, when you get out of the water, and you will feel so for a few hours. And here it's very important that if you want to do this in a cold climate, that you just go into the water slowly and that you don't go alone, because there's always something that can happen to you, even if you're completely healthy. And if you go alone, then the cold water can be very dangerous to you. And what's also important to know is that the best thing for your body to do after you go into the cold is to let your body warm you up by itself. So the shivering is very healthy, actually. Also, it can be dangerous to take a hot shower afterwards because the cold will make your skin feel numb. So you might you might burn yourself actually because you don't feel the temperature of the water. And what's also dangerous about this is that, like I said, the skin becomes like all the blood vessels in your skin contract because of the cold. And if you then go into a hot environment, they will flush, and this might also cause you to faint because then the blood pressure drops too much. So the best thing is to just warm up by yourself. And I think that cold exposure is something that I've incorporated into my life and has brought me many benefits. So I can really advise to try it out as a way to strengthen your body and to strengthen your mind as well. Are there any questions?
Super interesting, Ernst. First of
Thank you.
all, like I think these are all topics that are super important for traders as well. I try to implement as much as I can from that myself. And you gave us some tips and hints on what you actually use. So you talked about like the gym, the sauna, the cold exposure. So what kind of techniques do you implement in your daily life? So like what is your perfect sleep? Are you going to bed every night at the same time? How does your morning look like? People say, for instance, pack your things for the morning already the day before, so this decision doesn't need to be made on that morning. How do you implement all these things in your life?
Well, preferably like when I'm in the zone where I like work or have like before I need to study a lot and had internships in the hospital a lot, combining it with trading and all the other things that I'm doing. Then I prefer to go to bed at 10 and then wake up at 6. And then the first thing in the morning, like I talked about in the previous episode, I really feel that if I get an hour of work in first thing, so just wake up, go to the bathroom, get a coffee, and then start working, that this kind of carries over in the rest of the day because then I have conquered the first hour. And also, I will not really look at my phone until 12 in the afternoon when I'm really in this work mode. When I'm on vacation or on a holiday, of course, then I can let go of the whole um, regiment a bit. But that's what I personally find the most effective. And regarding gym, yeah, I've been going to the gym since 11 years, so this is kind of a second nature to me. And I also incorporate sauna a lot, like since 6 years.
Mhm.
And cold exposure, I now only do the cold showers, and I sometimes do an ice bath, but I don't have an ice bath at home. But in the winter, I normally go swimming like on the weekdays, in like swim in the morning, and then the water is like, when it's January, it's like 5 degrees or something. And then I always go swimming with my roommate, and we kind of uh, do 1 to 2 minutes, swim around, and then we go out.
Mhm.
And I really noticed it's insane. Like you get out like Superman, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
insane feeling.
That sounds great. Like we had in the chat two complete opposites of opinions. So Jordan would sleep like 12 and a half hours, and Praveen said, I'm only sleeping 5 hours.
Hmm.
He's gonna hit the gym then, work, trade, and then go to bed. These are two extremes, I would say.
Hmm.
What is your experience with that? Would you say like one is way too low, the other one is way too much, or can you actually believe like that this is the rhythm they need to have?
Yeah. Well, I can reflect on that a bit because I've quite a lot of experience with sleep also from my own health. Um, yeah, so most people will need between around 7 to 9 hours of sleep. That is kind of the like the bell curve, the normal distribution. There is 1 in 10,000 people who really need only 4 hours of sleep, and those are called the short sleepers, which is a genetic variant of people who kind of don't really feel the effects of lack of sleep. These are very rare, so the chances that you are really not damaging your health with 5 hours of sleep on a consistent basis are pretty low, but it might be. So that can be very personal. You can look at how much sleep your parents and family need because it's genetic. So if they also are healthy and active with only 4 to 5 hours of sleep, then there is a chance that you might just have the same gene, and this is not an issue for you. If you consistently sleep 12 hours, this might be um, an like a sign of an underlying issue because I've had a certain neurological issue where I would sleep 16 hours per day, and that's horrible, by the way. You really don't want to. That's not nice, let's say. And that eventually that kind of wore off a bit, but yeah, sleeping 12 hours is really on the high end. So it can, of course, be that you if you work hard for a week and you get a little bit sleep deprived, that you kind of sleep a bit longer to kind of make up for that. Although scientists are a bit, there seems not to really be a way to really get a lot of sleep depth back by sleeping longer, but some
Mhm.
people experience that it actually works for them. So there's always this science against experience.
Yeah, I heard the same, that
Yeah.
you can't catch up on sleep that you
Yes.
missed, So yeah.
Yeah, so there is studies suggesting that. However, I also always think with all these things that you have to really reflect on it, how it works for you. But yeah, so I think both of these really depend on their personal situation. But I would say in general, if you sleep 12 hours a night consistently, that you likely would be suffering from either a certain form of sleep apnea or a neurological like issue like Lyme disease or something in that manner. And I could advise you to go to the GP with that. So because if it's sometimes, then it's not that big of an issue, but it's very rare that people actually have a sleep depth that is so high that you sleep like a year long for 12 hours a night. I would
Mhm.
suggest that you get it checked.
It's also so sad for the time, right? I mean, just if
Yeah.
you calculate this up, like you miss out on so many opportunities and things you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, sleep is great. We all love it, but yeah, it seems a bit much, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, my last thing is really like when I explored like Wim Hof with the breathing
Yes.
exercises. This is something very interesting. I would really encourage our community to look into these things
Mhm.
because you can really like get your head free and like elevate your focus. It's insane how the body reacts to these breathing exercises and yeah, the heart rate goes up. You feel, like your body in a complete different way, and after that, you're just completely calm. So helps with trading for sure, helps with focus. So yeah, good stuff as well.
I'm also a great fan of that. Yes.
Yeah. He said the same. Don't do these things like in water or anything like that. You can have issues.
Yeah, he got sued actually by parents of a guy who did it. So he's now
Oh
very,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But
Just wanting to help
more,
people.
yeah, yeah, but
Rem- It's crazy. It reminds me of the American coffee story, right? Where she went to buy a coffee and then she got a hot cup and it was not written that it could be hot, so she sued for
yeah,
millions and millions. Yeah, we
yeah,
we we don't, we don't need to go too deep into these things. But I think this is three-part series that was very important for myself as well. I'm grateful that you took the time, that you accepted to show these specific things to our community.
pleasure.
Throughout these presentations, Ernst, I figured that I had questions that you would directly, instantly, go on in the next slide. So very well prepared. I think a lot of questions are answered. In the future, because this is evergreen content and people will rewatch it over time. If they want to get in touch with you, we will, obviously link your socials. So don't hesitate to get in touch with Ernst, ask your questions. I feel, yeah, you've given a great overview. You've done a lot for the community, and I hope you will take these information, build your own routine, and yeah, thank you so much, Ernst, for your time and the knowledge that you provide here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah. To everyone from the community, have a great weekend. I hope the trading week has been awesome. Enjoy yourselves, rest well, implement some of the things, and yeah, then see you next week to a fresh trading week with the Trading Pit.